So I put Pergear's CFexpress 4.0 card through sustained burst shooting, 8K raw, and I learned that the story about cards like this are not just about the numbers and the specs, but it's about what it can potentially change for you in your shooting and your workflow. So if you're looking for some real world results and not just specs off the page, then this one is going to deserve a closer look. So let's jump in. So if you shoot high frame per second bursts, then the real test is simple. Does the card keep pace without forcing you to pause? So here's what I found. The Pergear CFexpress card posts write speeds up to 3,400 megabytes a second. That's megabytes, right? That's what's on the label. But there's also the meaningful sustained rate, which is 800 megabytes a second. That's on the 512 gigabyte model, which is the one that they sent me. Which brings me to my disclosure. They did send me this card to review. I did not purchase this myself, but they are not paying for this review, and they're not going to be getting final approval on what I post. So in actual use, that sustained performance is actually what determines whether or not your camera's buffer drains quickly, enough to keep you in the action if you're just holding down the shutter. And the short answer is that in high-speed bursts, at 40 frames per second raw out of my 24 megapixel R6 Mark II and 20 frames per second electronic out of the R5, the card handled the data stream without choking. Now that matters for sports, wildlife, and any fast-moving subject scenario where decisive frame outcomes can come down to that 1 second and whether or not you have one more frame in your buffer. I ran extended burst sequences to push the buffer, both in compressed raw and regular raw, and the behavior was consistent. Smooth sustained shooting, fast recovery between bursts, the buffer cleared rather quickly, and I was able to re-engage quickly when the time came. And now let's just see how many we get with one go. We're gonna go all the way to 0. Okay, I saw 0, and the buffer is, I've already got 25 shots. Okay, now let's go ahead and hit play and let's see how many files we have. No way. So it shot 228 Canon RAWs before the buffer filled. No stuttering, no start stop, and that's where those sustained as well as burst speeds can absolutely show up in practice, right? It's not just about theoretical numbers, it actually translates into real continuity in the field. When I was shooting a hockey game, albeit the players are 6 and 7-year-olds, your camera is outputting considerable high frame rates. I know my camera was, and the card's ability to move that data off the buffer made the difference between being able to get the shot and not get the shot when something really interesting happened. So for high speed stills, the behavior matched the claims. We got sustained burst rates, both at 20 and 40 frames per second. I got quick buffer recovery, no slowdown that forced a break in action. So if you're using a high frame rate mode for sports or wildlife or any kind of action, this is the kind of consistency that you need so that you can stay in that viewfinder. I would be curious though, what cameras are you pairing with CFexpress cards like this? And what has your buffer experience been? Next, let's talk about the demands of 8K and high frame rate video, because that's another place where write performance gets stressed in a slightly different way. So high bitrate 8K and 4K 120 can leave 0 headroom if you've got flaky media. Hitting record, especially if you're shooting something like a wedding and you want that slow-mo or you want 8K to be able to punch in, seeing write errors, it's just not an option. And the Pergear card maintained reliable, sustained write speeds using 8K 30 out of the Canon R5, 4K 120 as well. That was across extended takes. I didn't see any frame drops. And in a temperature controlled environment, I was actually able to record about 15 minutes of 8K 30 in Canon RAW, filling up the card completely, and it ran clean. That's a straightforward outcome. The card held the stream without interruption. Now, thermals are always part of the equation, as is battery life when you're talking about high bitrate work. Now, this card has a metal housing, which allows for better heat dissipation, and under high load, the performance remains stable. So that combination, no frame drops, extended takes, consistent behavior, it adds to the confidence that you can kind of hit record and not worry about the clock, at least when it comes to your card, temperatures, and battery notwithstanding. Now, if 4K 120 is a part of your workflow and you need sustained throughput, the outputs on this camera are considerable. You need sustained throughput that doesn't sag in the middle of the take. And again, my findings here met and aligned with my requirements. The card stayed reliable when shooting high frame rate video. So maybe if you're not shooting 8K or 4K 120, maybe you're just shooting 4K 24 in fine mode on the R5 or in the line skipped 4K standard mode, you're gonna have no problem and you'll be able to record forever. Again, notwithstanding thermal or power requirements for a Canon R5. But if you're shooting 8K 30 where you want to be able to punch in, and maybe you're shooting in all-I or maybe even in an IPB codec, you'd be able to shoot continuously without any trouble because this card is definitely designed for high-end capture. So to close on the video side of things, professional 8K workflow, consistent, it delivered, right? It kind of just works or it doesn't, and it worked. At least when it comes to recording, both stills and video. So if you're doing 8K 30, 4K 120, really any of the video modes that you see out of any modern camera that takes a CFexpress Type B card, or you're shooting super fast raw stills, 45 megapixels in Canon RAW. These files are normally 40 to 50 megabytes a piece, sometimes more if you've got high ISO. But quite honestly, I think that's not really where this card is designed. Like, it's not where it shines, because it works fine in your camera. It's the other side of the speed coin, which is you have to get that stuff off your card. So capture speed gets the headlines, but honestly, the real savings, right? The important part when shooting with high-end cameras and using, high-end codecs, high-end raw photos, the real time savings comes when you plug the card into the reader. So I paired the CFexpress 4.0 card with a 4.0 reader, right? It reads up to 3,500 megabytes a second, and that determines how quickly you can move massive raw photos or your 8K video off of your reader and onto an SSD. The longer that takes, then the longer you're waiting to get to your edit, to get to culling your photos. And when you get that time down, that gives you more time to get to your actual work. I try to tell this to people all the time. When you're a photographer or a videographer, you can actually spend more time behind your computer than you do behind the camera. But having something like this, having something fast like this, can actually really make that a lot better. So real world benefits are obvious when you're on a deadline, trying to turn work around fast between sessions. I often will edit between my photo sessions, or if I've got a whole day worth of photo sessions booked, I don't want to spend days doing that. I need to ingest that stuff, start doing my culling, and get it out fast. So that gives me more time to edit, more time to shoot, more time to rest and relax or prepare for my next bit of work, or just more time to hang out with my family. So if your workflow involves frequent card dumps on location and responsiveness can compound throughout the day, then the value is not just in the peak numbers, but in the cumulative minutes that you actually save between offloads. And when you're dealing with high resolution stills or 8K video, file sizes can get pretty huge. So if you're juggling tight schedules, then faster ingest cycles are meaningful. And the read performance on this card with a CFexpress 4 reader supports that kind of throughput. But speed and throughput really only matter if the card survives real world condition. So let's take a look at the build quality and the durability. Because media failure in the field, well, that's table stakes. The Pergear card uses an all metal casing. It feels solid and robust, and it's got a construction that's built for being used in the field. This card is shockproof, waterproof, and X-ray proof. Those protections cover pretty much the most common threats that you'll likely run into in the field, whether it's a drop, a downpour, airport security, or just the general abuse of travel. But heat is another hazard that can reduce performance and shorten lifespans. And here, the card's heat resistance maintains performance under stress. And that's consistent with what I saw under sustained capture workloads out in the Las Vegas desert. I got stable behavior without thermal related slowdowns. My camera got hot before the card had a problem. But the durability and the heat dissipation are actually something that go hand in hand. Because of the metal housing, it's durable, but it also helps with heat dissipation. So it supports steady performance during longer, heavier shoots. Now, I've not had this card for years, so I can't speak to the long-term durability on this card. I can tell you that I have other cards, one of which from a company I won't name, but they're one of the big ones. And I don't think I'm overly harsh with my cards, but this thing is falling apart. And I've had it longer than I've had this one, but so far this one is holding up exceptionally well. But the long-term durability and reliability is actually backed on paper with a 5-year warranty. So if media is a critical link in your chain, then warranty coverage matters because it tells you kind of how invested they are in the product. Combine that with the environmental protections, the card's design, and what I see is practicality, value, and quality. So from construction to heat management to warranty coverage, the durability package lines up well with professional use. So if you're working in varied conditions or if you travel a lot, the combination can shrink your risk budget in a very real way. Now, performance and durability are part of the decision, but price matters, right? So let's talk about value. Because strong specs don't really matter if it doesn't make sense price-wise. So does this card make financial sense? Honestly, the pricing is competitive. 512 card, let's try that again. Now, the 512 gig card is actually available on their website bundled with a CF 4.0 reader for $186. That's off the normal, I think, $210. And if you're looking for the card alone, you can find it on Amazon for $149. Now, the 1 terabyte model at the time of making this video, which is normally $249, has a $25 coupon on Amazon. Again, I'll put links to all of that down below. That gives you some flexibility to choose and gives you great per gigabyte pricing value. And that really doesn't even take into account the additional value you get from the speed of ingesting your photos and video at the end of a workday. Because performance is really half the budget story, you need predictable behavior across the lifespan. And in testing, this card has continued to operate really with 0 hiccups in the weeks that I've been using it, both for photography and shooting high-end video. So the pricing aligns with performance. It's got competitive numbers, reliable sustained throughput, and the 5-year warranty is actually pretty cool, along with the fact that it is the metal construction. So to wrap up, here's the summary. For stills, the card handles long bursts at 40 plus FPS with quick buffer recovery. For video, it kept 8K 30 and 4K 120 running cleanly, giving me up to 14 minutes of 4K 30p in Canon RAW on the 512 gig card. No frame drops. Offloads using a 4.0 reader reached up to about 3,400 megabytes a second. Honestly, I think it was potentially saturating the read capacity that I have on my M1 Max MacBook Pro's SSD. Meanwhile, the rugged all-metal build is shockproof, waterproof, and X-ray proof with heat-resistant performance and a 5-year warranty. Priced at under $200, it's a straightforward package, sustained performance, fast ingest, durable design, sensible pricing. Now, the links down below do go to support the channel, so I'd appreciate it if you use those if you're looking to buy this product. And if you want to support what I'm doing here, consider becoming a channel member. It's $1. All the details are down below, including links to some of the gear that I use when I'm out as a photographer and videographer. But as always, the easiest way to support the channel is just to hit like and subscribe. Those are always free, and they go a long way to helping me grow here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.